All right. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to continue on with our public facilities budget review. And here we are with water districts. Yes?
Capital projects.
Oh, capital projects. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Jen Swan, Budget Director for Chautauqua County. What I need you to do for this particular review is flip back to the front section of your binders, and the second tab from the very beginning will list our capital projects.
We looked at this yesterday, briefly.
It's a lot of work.
Ooh, you were accurate on the second tab. Very good.
I double checked before I walked up to the table.
Okay.
Okay, the first couple pages on that tab, just to kind of reiterate, you have your Exhibit C, which really just goes through the currently active capital projects and lets you know where the balances are with each of the open projects. If you flip two pages down, or I'm sorry, third page down, the back of that is going to be Exhibit D, which shows your road fund project statuses. What we're going to review right now is Exhibit E, and this is the proposed projects for 2025. And just a little bit of background, primarily for Legislator Johnson, since he's newer to this whole process. The way that the capital projects work is they're due in the spring, and they are vetted and rated by the capital planning board, and they then send that rating list to the county executive, and there is a county level capital project review committee that sits down with the county executive. They make their recommendations, and then these projects are ultimately what the county executive has elected to include in the 2025 budget. So that's where these projects came from. The very front page of your Exhibit E is just a summary by department of the total project costs. It has a breakdown of how each of those projects at the proposed level will be funded. And then you have your total funding awarded for each of those departments. If you flip to the next page, in very small font, it lists in order by department each individual project that is being proposed for 2025.
Oh, yikes.
Just just for Bob, because he
1.5.
requested the smallest font that we could find.
Does anybody have a 1.5 reader?
Lisa's are probably in the car.
Wow.
This is all up to all of you. I don't know if you want me to walk through these one by one. I don't know if you'd like to just read through them for a moment and pose questions. I'm not sure what format you would all be comfortable with, so I guess I'm open for suggestions.
Yeah, I don't know how we've done it in the past, or I don't remember.
I'm too new to have a history to reference.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple points I'd like to add before you decide how you want to go through there. Just, we talked yesterday a little bit about some of the funding. So for capital projects, the county's interest earnings, realized earnings are dedicated to capital projects. So the first column, interest earnings, those are based on our realized earnings from 2023. So that's available to fund capital projects. The county executive did want additional projects funded beyond that total. So some projects are funded with our reserve for capital as well as general fund balance. Other funding includes some projects have state or federal funding. We do have one project that is proposed to be funded with serial bonds. So I just wanted to kind of go over how some of the funding for the projects is derived.
Thanks, Kitty.
You got any thoughts here to go through all of sit on the capital review committee, so I've reviewed all of these, so I'm not a good one to be judging.
I say let's go through all of them.
But there's one project in particular that I think you would like Mr. Card to describe, and that is the capital project for public facilities, the $7.2 million project.
Okay, what that project consists of is the Faulkner location. Our three buildings down there that are in deplorable condition. That is to look to replace that facility. My understanding was when they built the current new highway building, that those other buildings were all supposed to come down at that time, which they have not. So our plan is to replace those buildings for storage, sign shop, parks department, and put up a new facility in Faulkner.
And just for reference, the project they're discussing right now is the very first one on that second page of Exhibit E-1, and it's titled DPF Facilities Building Upgrades for 7.226.
I mean, the one building that we currently use still houses the Parks Department, it still has wooden floors. You know, the whole building is basically all glass. These buildings were built back in the 50s. I mean, they're old, so. Block buildings also, a couple of the other buildings, definitely need of upgrades and replacement.
So when's the start date on that?
As soon as we get the okay.
Assuming the, okay,
No, we would have to go through design and, you know, which we have some sort of design already, but, you know, through the engineers
spring.
and consultants, yeah.
and then.
Yeah, it would
how
probably
long-
be-
How long
I would say, Drew, is probably a good year and a half, 2 years
to
for
complete?
completion.
You're gonna have to go through design, and you're gonna have to bid it,
Right,
and then you're gonna have to go through the award process, contract process, and then you could begin
Put an extra
construction.
bay
Correct.
on it.
And that
Change
location
orders.
is desirable. You know, within the county, we have other facilities that could possibly be, you know, existing facilities that aren't being utilized anymore. You know, sometimes the cost of purchasing something like that, it's already a pretty nice building, it's just not where you want it, you know, is cheaper than it is to, you know, go down the route of building a new one, you know, so at the end of the day, it's where it is, right? And I guess if it makes sense to put the investment in that existing property, then that, you know, it's just kind of, I'm sure you're kind of.
yeah, because we have our Sherman location and our Sheridan location already, so.
Yeah, but
For
even
the southern part.
a place that's not currently owned by the county, you know, there's some factories or other buildings that might suffice, but they're not owned by the county, they may be available.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's, I was trying to think of one in particular, but I'm sure they're out there. Park a trailer.
Well, you know, and I mean, with a lot of those types of buildings, some of them are so old, I mean, some of the construction, some of the,
Some of them.
you know, some
Saving.
of the work that would
Mhm.
have to go into it
And the
would
other
be so
thing is,
extensive
you know, we
anyway.
already have our current DPF facility for, you know, maintenance and housing some of the trucks now in the winter, that's already currently there. That was built, when was that, 2012? When was that building, Pierre, do you know when that building was built? The current, so I mean, it's fairly new,
It's around that time frame.
yeah.
I remember it happening.
Sutter's first year.
Yeah.
I think I voted no.
You got
but-
this.
No.
They're gonna put it
Along
down.
those lines, I'm remembering a conversation from last fall about the difference in cost between having a private sector contractor build a building and we buy it, and our building it ourselves, given the things that were required of us when we go into the business of building it ourselves. Does that apply in this case, or?
Well, everything that, if we were to have it built, obviously, it would be all prevailing wage.
So
that
how are
you
we
have
going
to pay.
about, how are we going about this one?
It would be prevailing wage through a contractor. Because we're talking multiple buildings, so it's more than what we could do in-house.
But if you contracted with, so the moment we contract with somebody else, it has to be.
Anytime that anybody does work for a municipality, it's prevailing wage.
Right, and so if he built it on his own bat and we bought it, I think that's what I'm remembering from last fall. Just bought it as a standing building, not that we contracted with him to build
That would
it
be,
for us.
I think that'd be a question for the law department.
No, I think, Fred, I think you're correct, that if a private developer built a building himself on his own property, he would not have to pay prevailing wage. Then if he sold it to us,
Right.
we would buy it at whatever price he wanted to attach to it. But if he built the building on our property, then he would probably have to pay prevailing wage, because he was building it for us.
And we'd have to sell him the piece of the property, he'd have to do it, then we'd have to buy it back.
Yep.
Right.
But it was the county executive commission, we've done, not that last little bit, but that we in fact bought a building that way and saved a bunch of money.
I'm not sure that we bought a building, but what we have done in the past is a private developer has a building and we're leasing it. If we do the renovation to the leased building, it's prevailing wage. If he does the renovation to the building, it's not prevailing wage.
That's what I remembered,
Yep, I think that's what you're remembering.
yeah,
That was probably Lucas Avenue.
Lucas Avenue is the example I was thinking of, yes.
Mhm.
okay. But is there a way to save money
Oh, no,
through that kind of ledger domain, assuming the legal department lets us?
Being on our property, I don't know. Probably not.
Sell the property to them and buy it back?
Yeah, and I don't know if, say, on review
Put some
of
revenue in for
a-
24
of
and-
We call that
a arrangement like that, it wouldn't be seen as circumventing the prevailing wage, and that we could be subject to
Yeah, I-
litigation. I think I would have a concern for that, but that would be the law department's.
Well, we'll wait a year to buy it back.
I'd be willing to buy that property if I know you're gonna buy it back.
Well, additionally, a developer would be at risk if we decided in the end that we didn't wanna buy it.
We don't wanna buy
They
it.
don't have anyone else to sell it to, so,
Right.
it would be kind of a.
That's a good thought, but plus we already, like you said, that's where we are.
Right.
So that's where.
I understand, it's
Right.
just,
Louis Johnson Estates Wineries one.
every time I feel we're being told we have to do something by the state, I wanna push back. Sometimes you can win a pushback and sometimes you can't.
Never hurts to ask.
So how much do you think that piece of property?
Good landfill credits in for the building.
Probably a brownfield site, right, Tim?
Could be.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, I'm smelling a deal.
Oh, my.
But that was the one project that I really wanted the committee to hear the detail about, but if Dalton would like to hear about all the projects, then go for it.
Dalton.
Well, I think for Fred and I's first time, it would be good anyway.
You got it.
Okay, the sheriff is the guy
Well,
who takes care of.
And as a user of the airports, especially Dunkirk, I'm kinda curious as to what we're spending all that money for. Why that costs so
A
much.
variety of things.
And just for whatever questions that they might not be able to answer today, because there's projects that are not Tim's responsibility that are on this list, you do have a copy of what the planning board provided. I think the June meeting is where they provided the book of recommended capital projects, so the detail of the request is included in that book.
Thank you, Kitty.
Okay, so Tim is requesting that we go through the public facilities first so that he can,
Yeah.
Right, or
Get out of
go
the hot
through 'em
seat.
Just to the best, to the best
To the best of your
of,
abilities.
I already told
Yeah.
him what an airport was.
that was very generous of you.
It's what Bob votes on every
Okay,
day.
Hey,
so. Okay, so we'll start with, of course, the DPF airports, about halfway down page 1. We've got Jamestown, we have ARFF gear and an ATV right there. Okay. One funded with interest earnings, the other with capital reserve. And then beneath that, we've got the Parks Department. We have the, how do you pronounce that?
Earl.
Earl Cardo.
Yep.
Eastside Overland Trail, their development and implementation of the tar box.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a John Deere mower.
And the trail is paid for by timber sales.
Yes,
That does not come out of the tax levy.
accurate, yes.
Right, point of information, when we sell timber, it stays in the Parks Department
Yes,
for things like this.
that is correct. And then that takes us to buildings and grounds. We have carpet replacement in the old courthouse hallways and waiting areas.
Is the ATV for the airport a specific,
Uh,
special one?
It's just like a Kubota, like a, side-by-side type thing, that they can go around and check the fence, they're out and about the whole airport, to get around
More
and do
like
maintenance and,
UTV,
yeah.
ATV, 25,000 is a lot
Yeah.
for ATV.
And it flies.
It flies, it has jet engines.
Thank you, Bob.
It is, but
Mr.
that's
Chairman.
what they go for, especially if we get stuff for,
Diesel and all the rest of it.
oh yeah.
Okay, that takes us to the buildings and grounds projects. Again, the carpet replacement. Second one down, we have the HVAC air handler replacement for this room, for the lodge chambers. We have a drinking fountain replacement project for the Mayville campus. And then we also have bathroom updates. There's gonna be a design and study of what should be done with the bathrooms here on the Mayville campus.
That cost is just for the study.
Correct.
Who's that contracted through?
It'll be a consultant, somebody that we
And
pay.
that RFP's put out, is it an RFP and then whoever responds to that consultant work, or do you just pick someone?
We can pick one,
You can pick one.
yeah,
From the
From-
responders to this RFP,
right.
Okay,
anyone can submit a response.
correct. And then you can pick whoever's kind of from that, okay.
I think what Tim's referring to is that we have an approved list of engineering consultants.
Right.
And for a project of this size, we probably wouldn't go through the time and expense of putting out an RFP. We would just pick one of
One of
those
our
consultants who we
consultants.
felt was best qualified to do this project. How'd I do, Tim?
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
And that's through past history? Or is it through, how do you get on that approved list? And how do you adjust that list? How do you review that list from year to year?
The list is developed from past experience, but also we have, the contractor has to provide proof of insurance and all that, so to get on the list. And then that list is reviewed, and there are some contractors that unfortunately over time we have a poor experience with, so they fall off the list, and other contractors or engineering consultants that are interested in getting on the list, and we hear good reviews about them, they may get added to the list.
And that's my reason for that questioning is because I know some of our projects, we have had poor experiences with some of the engineering firms.
Yes.
And we've kind of gone down a poor road sometimes. So it's just, it's an important process that can save the county money
Yes.
or also cost them in a bad respect, so I just.
And that's why I framed the answer the way I did, is that Tim and his staff will pick the consultant they want to do this project. There are consultants that are better at bathrooms, there are consultants that are better at airports, there are consultants that are better at roads, so they pick one that they know from experience is good at this type of project.
Thank
Okay, and that brings us down to, we've got CART, they've got their annual bus replacement project. DPF Transportation, we have the facilities building upgrades that was just discussed. We have spill prevention, control, and countermeasure. Falconer DPW, repair and welding shop LED lights and ceiling fans. We have a vehicle and equipment request for $2.5 million. 2 million of which is proposed to be coming out of fund balance. We have fire alarm system at the Falconer Highway facility. Salt shed covers, which has been an ongoing project for the last few years. We have the shop heating system at the Sheridan Highway shop as well. Do I know what that is? Mm.
Tim, how many buses are we replacing this year for carts?
I believe it's 10 every year.
Okay.
So bottom line, DPF is making out very well with the capital plan this year.
Yes, they are.
Well,
Hopefully Tim's pleased
Thank you.
with what's being proposed.
Now, for perspective, excluding the $7.3 million project, or $7.2 million project, if you took that out of the total of this capital plan is just about the same as last year.
Mm.
So
Okay.
all the other projects combined are consistent with what we have spent capital projects in the past.
it's only
That
100.
$7.2 million project actually obviously bumps up this year quite a bit.
Perfect. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Tim?
So, I mean, I'm backing up just a bit, to catching up $50,000 to study or create a plan for bathroom renovations.
Correct.
Okay, I'm just a farm boy, but I've used the bathroom in a couple of floors, so they seem fine. What's the problem?
I think they're just looking for upgrades, ADA compliance. I mean, these buildings were built in the late 60s, early 70s, I guess. They're just looking to upgrade, modernize.
50,000 to study it, which means it's gonna be a multiple of that to do it. And if we've studied it, we're probably gonna do it. And again, I'm just a farm boy, but I used the bathroom just a little while ago, and it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So why is this worth, God only knows what it's gonna cost to do?
That was just something that we were brought forward with to take a look at for the upgrades for the bathrooms. I think it's been something ongoing again that has been tried to put through for the last couple of years.
But are there, like, bathrooms I'm missing that are terrible? Or am I just have low standards or what?
There are some of the faucets that don't work.
I found one of those.
The building is, used by many employees every day. We have several visitors to the facility, courts here in the facility, and, I think the request is based on upgrading the environment of this building for the employees and the public. So, I don't think it's gonna be anything extravagant, but, having a good working environment does improve morale, I think, for employees and makes it, just replacing carpeting when it gets old, you wouldn't think would make much of a difference, but it does make people feel when they're walking into their work environment every day that, they're valued and just having a good working environment is beneficial. That's my opinion, but I think that reflects, the reason the county executive also want to include this project in the capital budget.
And this is a study of the entire Mayville campus, so that's GOB building,
Yeah.
HRC, the courthouse. And just, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, the study might say, third floor GOB bathroom is okay, don't need to touch that one. You know, first floor HRC is terrible, I don't know that, but that's the purpose of doing the study is, where do we need to focus our attention?
Sure, but I'm just concerned that, $50,000 for a study is, okay, that sounds like a lot of money, but what are we really playing for here in terms of doing the project? Does anybody have an idea? I mean, 2 million, 5 million?
Until you know how many
Until we know
bathrooms
what the
you really
study,
need to
that's what the
do.
study's for, to tell us what,
Yeah.
So a
It'll
little
show
comment
that.
I have is, when I served on the school board, schools are required to have a building conditions survey.
Mhm.
And so, you know, we actually had a firm that came in and did the buildings conditions survey. It was kind of pricey to begin with, but what was included in that is they went over the whole building, top and bottom. But what they developed out of that was also a plan moving forward that you could say, hey, look, the roof is at this state, and they say it's good for another 15 years, but it was a planning device also. And so, you know, those bathrooms would have been on that, and they actually they gave you a computer, and it was all on that computer. And it saves you from having you know, we have a lot of studies. There's a study for 50,000, you know, could you invest in more of a study for the complete campus as a whole, instead of individualizing? You know, it's something that I think it would be considered in the future. There's companies that are, you know, they specialize in this, and that's what they've done. But then you don't have to worry about a study, you already know the information, and it can be updated very easily. And as the projects get done, you also, you input that in the project, but then you don't even need to do this study on the bathrooms, because we already know, it's already been studied. They go to the detail of the floors, you know, the floors really should be updated, and this is the last time it was done. And so they, you know, it's really thorough, but it saves you the individual, and also timing thing, because it takes a long time to get the studies done. We have to approve it, it has to get into an RFP, they have to accept that, and then they gotta get it on their work schedule, and so if we already have the surveys and studies already done, just something to look into.
Something to consider for the future.
right.
Yeah. Studied it. I was a little skeptical, but it worked out very well. Then also you could plug in, like if you, all of a sudden the federal government gives you lots of money, you say, look, we already have a project list, capital list, and we can move a couple of those projects right up, and there they are, the work's already done, we know what we gotta spend it on. right?
Yeah.
I'm not being skeptical, I'm
I
being
get it.
funny.
I get it. I just want the heated toilet seat.
With a bidet.
Are there any other questions for Tim on his projects? Go ahead, Bob.
Oh,
You-
no,
you
there's
look like
just
you were ready
too
to-
much material here,
Okay.
I could be here all day.
Okay. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you all would like, I can start right up at the top of the list, as Dalton has requested.
Next year you won't have to.
No, you're fine. I just like to pick on you. Okay, so we'll start with the sheriff's office. We have tower site generators. Those definitely need to be replaced, so they're very outdated. I believe this quote is for 2. We have server replacements and upgrades. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, a lot of the information that's on their servers. They don't utilize the cloud for everything. There are a number of other things that they actually use individual servers for, so those need to be regularly replaced as well. We have the Mayville Dispatch UPS. We have some patrol equipment. And that is actually being split. It was requested that they try and split that project based on more immediate need, so it's been split roughly in half. So they're requesting a portion of it in 2025, and I believe they're gonna come back for the balance in 2026. And then they have their range improvements. The range is exceptionally outdated. I don't wanna say dilapidated, but it is not in good condition. I'm sure that if anybody ever wanted to actually see it, you're welcome to reach out to the sheriff or anybody else at the sheriff's office. I'm sure they would happily take you through it. So that very badly needs to happen. So that's what that's for. That brings us to emergency services. We have body armor for EMS medics. I know that that body armor will be for all of the medics, and it will be a situational use based on when they actually do need to use it. There are medics that are a part of some of the county's special teams in tandem with the sheriff's office and other things of that nature. So this will also provide protection for those individuals that deal with some of the more difficult situations. We have power load stretchers for the ambulances, automatic external defibrillators, and that covers EMS. That brings
And-
us to IT. I'm sorry.
That's, the AEDs are for wider distribution throughout county facilities. We have
Yes,
very few AEDs available in our facilities. It's a
surprisingly.
little startling when you think about how many
Mhm.
are in schools, how many should be in schools, and how few we have available, so that's a health and safety concern.
It is. It is. Thank you, Mr.
That's a
Chairman.
Body armor for medics, how many medics do we have?
I don't know that off the top of
And
my
what does
head.
one body armor cost?
I don't know that either. I'm
Do I
sorry.
need-
I don't
Again, that would
have,
be
I
in the
don't have the
detail in
specifics in front of
the
me.
report that you referred to, that was presented
Okay.
by the planning board.
This is fine print.
Thank you. That brings us to IT. They have their network equipment, which has been an annual thing for several years now. Regularly needs to be upgraded, obviously, or replaced. We have the first floor data room AC unit. I know that there was a lot of conversation around this when it was being reviewed, but you know, when you're talking about servers that handle delicate information, those rooms need to be kept certain temperatures because obviously things will overheat. So that's where that need is coming in at a fairly high level. And then they have enterprise software, which has also been a multi-year project. Skipping over all of DPF. Going down to planning and development, about a third of the way down the second page. We have Greenfield Development for $350,000. That's been another multi-year investment at the county level. We have Chautauqua County Complete Streets for $100,000. Board of Elections, this is another annual request that gets submitted for their voting machines. This is actually a lot lower than past years because I believe they've actually managed to get some funding to replace some machines this year. So this request is a little bit lower than usual. For JCC, they have their interior repairs and renovations. We have roofs, site work and sidewalks, infrastructure repairs and LED lighting. The JCC projects, they did submit more projects than these, but they came in and told us which ones are at the top of their priority list. So the county executive had that discussion with them and decided to add these based on their top 5 priorities.
Jen, that's a point that I was going to make as well, is that there were other capital projects that were submitted, and the capital planning committee decided not to fund some of those.
That is
And
correct.
so the capital planning committee recommendations to the county executive were pretty much what he implemented in the tentative budget. So there were some projects we just said, no, not now, not this year, maybe not at all, but, and then there are some, I think you heard earlier, some of the departments mentioned that they had submitted an expense as a capital project, and we told them, that's not a capital, that's a maintenance. That should go in your maintenance budget. And so that's what the capital review committee does, is look at those project requests and cull them down to the ones that we recommend to the county executive.
So, I'm sorry, you're on the capital review committee, who else is?
Tim actually is.
Tim is on the committee. Mark Geis from planning is on the committee.
I believe Bob
It's-
Benkoski.
Bob
is
Benkoski is on.
The administrative code dictates who, or spells out who's on that committee by default, so yes, there's the planning board, the planning board members do the first review, but then the capital projects review committee is made up of people in the administration as well as several legislators, so,
Yes.
it's like usually the minority and majority leaders, the, chairman of,
Yes.
DPF, the county executive and the budget director are considered the co-chairs. So there is by title a number of positions that are part of the committee every year.
And we really respect the work that the planning board does, because they sit with the department head and literally discuss each project that is proposed and question it, interrogate it. And so when they put their recommendation together, they rank them. And so the project that's ranked number one, unless we've got some violent objections to it, we're gonna recommend that one. The projects that's ranked 76 out of 77, we may not suggest that one be funded, if you get the drift. So we certainly respect the advice of the planning board, because they put a lot of work into this,
They do.
and we generally follow their recommendations, but it comes down to how much do we feel we can afford in this year's budget? So some projects we choose not to fund, some just don't make the cut because there's not enough money this year.
And some can be funded in other, would be more appropriately funded in other areas.
Yes, yes.
Here, I got a question. Just, and I think we did something with this. Let's just take, well, I'll take JCC, I probably shouldn't, but like their sidewalks. It says site work. All right, let's skip that. Let's go to roofs. Well, maybe that's not a good one either. LED lighting. 200,000, we're giving them 50,000. Right?
Yes.
So, do they do $50,000 worth of that work?
They have now the choice of doing $50,000 of that work, or coming up with their own money to do more of it, or all of it. We're saying, here's how much we would be willing to contribute to this
And
project.
on this, on JCC, did we not this year or 1 year let them take the monies from their certain projects and do the projects that they thought they should do?
They have amended project budgets as they've deemed necessary. If something
Yes.
comes up that requires urgent attention,
So they were
and they
able to-
don't have the funding in that particular category, but they're saying, well, this funding that we have here, we technically, we probably could get away with putting this off, then they'll amend in between their projects.
So they use this money the way they,
He's got a comment.
I'm not trying to make this a negative, I'm just,
So,
am I wrong? Didn't they prioritize?
So just a couple of clarifications here. The first column is what's requested.
Yes,
And so in the case of JCC, that is their project, total project cost. For the county contributes 25% of the project. So the amount funded is our share of
Right.
their project. So the other 50% comes from the state, and the other 25% comes from the college.
okay, so that's a bad I knew,
So-
I
Well,
knew
they
it was a
do-
bad
Then
example.
the projects themselves are
You're not
individual
wrong.
projects, so.
So
that-
everything that we did there was a formula, was 25%.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a bad example. All right, I would like to
Each project
withdraw my
account-
question.
Each project account is its own account. It can't be shifted from one project to another without a budget amendment, if that's what you were getting at.
I think he was talking about the budget amendments that were made a couple months ago because of,
Didn't we do a budget amendment where they
We
were
did.
allowed to take their, I'll be silly, their lighting money and their roofing money and
Yes.
put it into the sidewalks?
Yes.
Because they deem that as the priority.
yes.
But that has to be done by
And I'm not
Amendment.
saying I'm for it, or I'm happy that I remembered it.
So along that line of questioning, let's just look at the vehicle and equipment request for the DPF. You know,
Yep.
the total project cost is $2,548,000, and we only awarded $2 million. So what do they do with the existing, or the remaining 548, just not buy it?
That's,
That's-
JCC was the wrong example.
So
That's the
the
one I wanted
So
to, yes.
the DPF, yeah,
Yes.
we did not fund the full request in the
Correct.
budget. We only funded 2 million of the $2.5 million that DPF asked for.
And essentially, that means that it's up to the DPF to decide how they wish to spend that which pieces in their original request they would prefer to spend that 2 million purchasing.
Okay.
So that's,
When I was looking at JCC, I'm thinking, we need 1,121 feet of sidewalk, and it's gonna cost us $54,711. And we only give them 19,000, how,
They do
Which-
less sidewalk.
yeah, but, yeah.
Do they do
It's a
less
very narrow
sidewalk though, or do they
sidewalk.
have the option
I'd
to
like to withdraw
wait
my
till the next
question.
year? I mean, do they have the option not to take the money at all if they can't proceed with the program? Or the project?
Sure. Yeah,
I would imagine so, yes.
That's how it is when we allocate youth funds anyway. If we can't allocate all of it, we
Mm.
just kinda leave that conversation open, cause, I mean, if the program can't run, then
Right.
there's no point to take the money, but
Right.
if we can't,
So, on an annual basis, Jen reviews all the capital projects that are open to find out the status, to see if any can be closed.
yep.
So we do that process annually, so if they had a project that was not gonna come to fruition, we would close it out by budget amendment.
And then they just don't, the money stays within the capital fund on our end. Or goes back to the general fund.
It would stay in the reserve.
Yeah,
fund.
it would stay in the reserves.
Okay.
So we're under the assumption, we're gonna give DPF 2 million of the 2,548,000, that they're going to
Yes.
take it and do what they can with it and
Yes.
find,
For heavy equipment.
Yes.
and, right, they could buy $2 million worth, or they're not required to do the 2,548.
Correct.
No, the budget will only reflect $2 million that they are able to spend.
Right, okay, so it's up to them to
Yes.
cap it at 2 million or
Yes.
figure it out?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So say it comes in at 1.9 though, because nothing ever comes in evenly at
At
$2 million.
exactly an even amount.
We keep the extra money and it doesn't go to the DPF department.
It would remain allocated in that project until they close the project, or they could request money in future years that could get added into that same project account if it's for the same purpose.
Okay.
It depends.
But if it's
Okay.
me spending it, I'm gonna spend $2,021,000.
2.1 million.
Not-
And the heavy equipment is also a unique category as
It
well,
is.
because
Yeah.
like Jen just said, they might spend 1.9 million, but, so there'll be $100,000 left, so when they make their requests next year, they might have that $100,000 still
To
in
work
the
with.
capital account, because the capital budget rolls forward automatically
Okay.
as compared to our operating budgets, they end at the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
Capital continues until it's actually.
Till the
closed.
project's over.
Closed by resolution. Yes.
Now, back to JCC, no, I'm just kidding. Hey.
Sheriff's office again?
Any other questions on JCC? Okay.
None.
Okay, and then last on that page, you'll see the sheriff's office's annual vehicle request. Now, the sheriff's office, it was discussed earlier, leases versus purchasing. The sheriff's office opts out of leasing, largely because of how significant the build-out is on their vehicles with everything that gets added, all of the pieces of equipment, the electronics, the wiring. I mean, they essentially gut any vehicle that they get, so they didn't see fit to involve themselves in a lease program. So that's where that purchase comes into play. The next page is Exhibit E2, and that actually breaks down the vehicles that are being purchased by the sheriff's office next year. It has the quantity, excuse me, it has the quantity and the estimated purchase price in total. Exhibit E3 is your roads and bridges requests. There's the county bridge program, and then there is the highway improvements of county roads.
And those amounts, just to add, these were already reviewed in the D and the D fund budget.
Yes.
They're just also reflected here in Exhibit E because it's capital.
And then on the final page, you have Exhibit E4. You have DPF's landfill request for vehicles and heavy equipment at 1.15 million, which is being entirely funded by user fees. North Chautauqua County Water District with their water main and master meter project. Total request is 8.2 million. 4 million is state funding, 4.2 million is user fees. And then your south and center projects, one is the rehabilitation of gravity sewer collection lines and manholes, and then the other one is the wastewater primary bypass. Both being funded with user fees. I hope nobody has any detailed questions about those, because I do not know details about those. As has been mentioned a couple times, you guys are welcome, obviously, to look at the handout that was distributed by the Capital Group, that gives the details on the capital projects. If you have any other questions on those, beyond that information, feel free to reach out to me anytime. I can get the answers for you and get back to you as quickly as I can. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
All right. Thanks, John. All right. Moving right along. Tab, what's that say, 28?
So it's 28.
NCLSD.
Chautauqua Lake Sewer District, Mr. Matt Olbeck.
Please state your name.
I'm Matt Olbeck, Director, North Chautauqua Lake Sewer District.
I'm still Chad Marks, Deputy Director of Finance.
So for the North District, we increased the FTE due to the budget, or, I'm sorry, the new director's position for the North County Industrial, or the North County Water District. So they're also gonna take over some of the PPD and the North County Industrial Water and Sewer District. Meaning I would pretty much be solely for the North District, North Chautauqua Lake Sewer District. That's why that FTE is up 0.3.
Before you move on, I just want to point out for the committees that even though your 2025 tentative budget reflects a slight loss next year of $68,000, the North District Board and you as their director have done a fine job over the last couple of years of operating this district and bringing their fund balance into a very healthy position. So at the end of '23, the fund balance for this district was $815,000. So the ability to absorb a $68,000 potential loss next year should not be any problem at all.
Do you have any engineers in your department?
No, no, we're very small. There's myself, the director, one operator for the plant, and then 2 maintenance mechanics, which they are still gonna be taking care of the maintenance in the Portland, Pomfret, Dunkirk Sewer District and the industrial districts. So yeah, our expenses are up, and I went through, there's no real big projects. I mean, contractual, our pumps are relatively new. There's a couple pumps we're gonna replace, but, we've kind of taken it down. I think the big reason we're showing a loss is our revenues have been overestimated the last few years. We anticipated the Mandolin Ridge project as more homes being built there. We anticipated the town extension being farther along than it is, so we've reduced the revenue to make it more realistic. Then there's another $50,000 out of the budget that, because we don't have any planned studies for next year yet. Our contractuals are up a little bit because our chemical, I won't say the chemical prices went up, but we seem to be using more chemical due to remove the phosphorus, to be under the limit of our speedies permit, so. That's one of the big ones, is we've used quite a bit more than we have in the past. And one thing in here was some money that may not have to be used, but there's budgeted for a building repair for a storage building we have. The last couple of years, the state has done fire inspection, and he's mentioned that, and this year he actually wrote it up. It's not a priority, but he's saying it ought to be fixed, so I think I have, some extra money, $5,000 in there to get that fixed up and the building sealed up. And I think that's about all I have. Is there questions?
Matt, I had a question about the 8120, account 5460, insurance. That's on page 5 of 12. Actual expense 2022 was 0, 2023 was 0. Budget for this year was $135. Budget for next year is $24,600.
I know we talked about this.
We did. So I think, was it because of the
The departments that we were using.
sub-departments? Yeah.
And as you may recall, we changed, we're using different department codes, to align all the sewer districts, to utilize the same chart of accounts. And so some of the accounts were, mapped to new departments, so this could be accounting for the change in where the insurance was previously budgeted to where it is now. On top of that, any changes in the amount of equipment that they have being insured could also cause variance.
So what you're saying is that it may previously have been charged to 8130, and now it's being charged to 8120, for example?
For example, yeah.
Well, and, 8120, what is now only 8120 encompasses what was once also 8120, 8122, and 8120, 8124. So there were a couple of sub-departments that were rolled up into now just being 8120 in general. And all of those expenses are gonna be reflected in 8120 now.
So we've lost visibility of 8121 and 8122 then. They're not showing up in this report. Oh, excuse me, there it is. Yep.
Is this an issue of recasting history to conform with the go-forward accounts?
Yeah, we can't do it at the line item level in our system. We can only manually do it like in a spreadsheet version of the summary, so, but we can separate that out manually to show you the history.
Yeah, they're not new charges, they're just coming from different places.
Right. So
For the
I do
most
s-
part.
I do see that's offset in 8130. 8130 insurance is going down by 25,000, and 8120 insurance is going up by 24,000. So it is an offset where it was charged in a different department before. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought I had a good handle on your budget until I saw that.
And
And for those of you who are wondering why Matt is now fully dedicated to the North Chautauqua Lake Sewer District, you may have heard me say this before, but the North Chautauqua Lake Sewer District is growing. They're taking on a new housing development that has been built in Mayville, near Mayville. They're taking on a extension of the Town of Chautauqua Sewer District. So there's good work going on, as well as they have a project to do an inflow and infiltration remediation project in their existing system. So Matt's gonna be a very busy guy, and his board was very desirous of getting him back working full-time for the North Chautauqua Lake Sewer District. So his board is excited to have him back full-time.
don't know, is there anything else that sticks out to you guys? I mean, I got, other than we're up 17,000 in operating supplies for the plant, but that's just buying spare bulbs for the UV system, spare wipers, spare wear parts for the bar screen. Just, they're not needed right now, but they, so we have them on hand when they are needed.
Matt's plant does ultraviolet disinfection of their effluent before it goes into the lake, and those ultraviolet bulbs are very expensive.
What's the shelf life on one of those?
Good question.
How do you monitor that? Do you test them and
There's-
then say they're not good anymore?
Yeah, they're supposed to burn for so many hours, and then you're supposed to replace them. The last time we replaced all of them, they were still putting out the intensity. I mean, there's a meter,
Yeah.
so we left them in for quite a lot longer than what they said.
Might as well get the use out of it,
Right.
because they are expensive. I had the luxury of touring some of the treatment plants, and it's pretty neat, some of the devices and systems that are utilized to treat it, so.
It's chlorine-free,
Yeah,
which is wonderful.
Yeah.
yes. Otherwise, they want you to take, the standards of putting certain things into treatment, but then they want you to take it back out.
Exactly, that's the requirement now. If you put chlorine in to disinfect, you have to take it out before you dispose of your effluent.
So this way, you don't have to take it out. I mean, it's just a different approach, which you have the expense of the lights in that system, but once it's in place and it's using, it's just the changing of those bulbs, which lasts longer.
And the storage and handling of the chlorine gas is not a fun thing or a safe thing to do.
Correct. So it's safe.
Yep.
You got anything to add?
It's their preference.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they have questions.
All right. Moving right along.
The next district is the Portland Pomfret Dunkirk Sewer District. That, until the end of the year, Matt is being contracted by his North Stock Lake Sewer District to provide administrative director services for that district. And again, I'll give the highlight that, again, through Matt's help and the board's work, they have put this sewer district back on solid financial ground. And even though their 2025 budget indicates that they're gonna lose a little over $12,000, at the end of last year, they had a fund balance of $289,000. So certainly the ability to absorb that $12,000 loss.
FTEs are gonna go down.
The way this was set up is that it reflected Matt as a, part of Matt as an FTE. And now, the new administrative director for the North County Sewer and Water Districts is being allocated as a charge to the district. So that's the change.
That person, it's a new position?
New position, the individual has been hired, I was gonna say hired, has agreed to take the position starting January 1.
You see personal services was up due to the addition of an administrative director. Contractual's up 11,000. And that's depreciation. And I'm guessing that's estimated, or like,
Yeah, it's an estimate.
it's not a,
Well, Todd calculates that, yeah,
yeah.
based on your new equipment.
Again, employee benefits are up because of that. Because of the administrative director's position. 8130. Contractual's up, and one of the big things was postage. I think that kind of stuck out. And I think we kind of a little bit over there, but if what we've run into is with the projects, we've had to do public hearings, and we didn't figure on those, and that's sending a lot of, not just the normal 511 customers bills out, but they have to go to everybody that's on the deed or the tax roll. So some of those places have like 10 names on, on the tax roll. And we have to send a letter to every one of them. So we increased that quite a lot, just in case we have to send a public notice.
The project that Matt's referring to is that this district is also doing an inflow and infiltration remediation project to remediate their old sewer lines and manholes.
Yeah, and that project did go to bid, but we're waiting for comptroller approval before we can award the bid, which seems to be taking a while.
All right, any questions? Comments? Concerns? None.
Hopefully they use it.
And the North County Industrial Water and Sewer District. Again, we have the reallocation of employees due to the administrative director's position.
Again, this is another, two districts, water district and sewer district. They're very small districts for industrial customers. And Matt has been providing under contract from his home district, the administrative director's services for this, which will be filled by the new employee that we talked about earlier. And again, as a highlight, the 2025 tentative budget shows a gain next year, which is wonderful. Good news is that even after funding their water tank reconstruction project, they ended last year with a $211,000 fund balance. So this district, again, is in good financial footing. These two districts, I should say.
I believe our revenues were bumped up here a little bit, and but there's hopes that the water meter readings are more accurate, and there's one business in the water district that has been billed improperly since the inception of CBI, so that means we've been billing them wrong. We're currently trying to correct that. But there's a multiplier on the meter, and they haven't been reading it, or they've been reading it but not multiplying it. So it's a substantial amount.
So the county law department is deeply involved in this
Right.
issue.
We're trying to get the numbers down, and so that should change the revenue. Plus, there's a meter that's not working still in the Purina plant, which is probably the biggest water user in that district. That they keep telling me they're gonna fix it, but
I thought they fixed it.
nobody's told me that.
Okay. Check with Brian.
I thought okay, I will.
Okay.
Because I thought in his minutes, the last minutes, it indicated that it was still,
Last meeting I was at with them, which was a month or so ago, I thought they reported that they fixed it.
okay. If it was, it must have just been recently, so.
It was
Well, you
relatively
said a
recent,
month,
yes.
okay. Um, In the contractual, last year CBI added $10,000 for unmetered water, and we were able to cover it last year with money we had in the budget. So now it's one of the reasons the contractual is up so much, is that's now in the budget to cover that. That's an every year thing, that they just came up with that rate.
It's an approximation. What this amounts to is that the water district has a couple of fire hydrants, and some of the local volunteer fire departments come and fill up their tankers and use that for training and drills, et cetera. And that is water that goes to the district, but doesn't go through a meter to be paid for. Also, when they were renovating their water tower, they had to drain the water out of the tower and flush it out, and then replace the water. That didn't go through a meter either.
Right.
So, that's something that they're gonna have to keep closer track of going forward. They're providing a community service to the volunteer fire departments by what they're doing. Somebody has to pay for it.
Right. And then under other contractors there is up quite a bit, because in the past, there's been some big water leaks that have cost a fair amount of money, and there's not the staff to do it. It's all done by the emergency contractor or the contractor, which now is St. George, but, so that's why those costs are up.
And their emergency contractor is very responsive.
Yes.
Weekends, middle of the night, doesn't matter.
And with the 8120, it's kinda both the pumps in the one pump station have been replaced. There's not a whole lot changed there, it's just what it is to maintain what's there. There's no added big costs there, no plans for any pump station rehabs or anything like that, it's just. I do see insurance, again, here is way up, but there's no sub-accounts, so I can't explain that. $8130.
Yeah, it's up in both. That's probably just new equipment, get new equipment in those places. Cause it is up both here.
Kitty, you have an answer for that one?
I'm looking it up.
Okay.
A couple pumps, but they are huge. I think it would be that.
It's both the sewer district and the water district.
Yeah.
So, it's just a quick question, I was just looking that up, like a lawsuit revenue is big, you know, so when you have meter issues, why is there a delay sometimes? Is it parts, is it the ability to fix it, is it unavailability of parts, is it, you know, you didn't catch it, or, you know, what's the? Just depends on the situation.
Depends on the situation. I think the particular meter we're talking about, they fixed once, thought they, and then maybe it worked for a while, then it was not working, then it like started working again. There was several, you know, so it was kind of an intermittent problem.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you know, the ticker doesn't work, they're not getting charged for the water, and since, you know, so negatively affects you, it's important to keep it going, but.
They're being charged an estimated volume. So they're still being charged for their water, it's just it was estimated.
Just
they're just
estimated.
estimating.
So it could be under, could be over.
Yeah, is it beneficial or isn't it? Yeah, I
Right.
get it, and it's in Parina's best interest really to have it working too.
Yeah.
Or they could say, well, they're estimating it, let's wash everything this month, you know?
And I,
You know,
and with them, I think that had to shut down a major line, so it had to be scheduled with them.
Yes,
So,
sure.
so, you know, it had to be done on a holiday or on a, not even on a weekend. I think they planned to do, and did it on a holiday, so
Yeah,
there was nobody at the plant.
yeah, I get it, you know, some of your customers are hard to work with in the sense of that you don't wanna slow their operation down either.
Wonder if the insurance, just because of the tower.
Well, whatever
should
we
affect
come up
the
with
sewer.
on insurance is not gonna affect the tax levy, so.
No, okay.
We can leave Kitty and Jen to figure out if we need to make a change to that budget, and then we can just make the change later.
Excellent. Yep. Great idea. We have a second.
And if
All
it
right.
goes down or goes up, next year, Matt won't be carrying.
Not my problem.
Not my problem.
All right, very good.
Thanks, Matt, for all you do.
Thank you.
Okay, next up. South Center. South Center? SCCLSD.
South and Center, Chautauqua Lake Sewer District. Tom Walsh, Director.
All right,
Okay, I'll paint a quick little picture. We are an enterprise fund as well. Our revenue is based directly on our user fees. We currently have 5,614 customers in the South and Center Chautauqua Lake Sewer District. A user fee for one EDU is equivalent dwelling unit. It is $88.50. We estimate that each home uses approximately 200 gallons of water a day. Any industrial account is billed on water usage. So their calculation is every 17,500 gallons of water that they use, they also pay $88.50. The new district, the West Side Sewer Extension, they pay $232.50 a quarter. The additional $150 in that bill is to offset the infrastructure cost that we just invested in that sewer extension. The west side, the south and center sewer district goes from Maple Springs, the Midway Park, all the way up through 430 to Bonita, the Greenhurst area, and then we actually have a pump station that pumps the water in a pipe under the outlet, the Chattacoin, and that comes to our pump station. And on the west side, it actually goes from Stowe, following the 394 corridor, through Lakewood, Hunt Road, all the way to the city line. That is our sewer district. A lot of the system that was installed in Lakewood and the Ellicott area was actually installed 1938 to 1942. And when you pull up the maps of that time, the maps are absolutely fantastic. They're spot on, the footages, the depth, so we still use them, and they're very accurate. Because we can tell, because we actually have a CCTV camera that videos the sewers, and when we see the taps or the laterals coming up or the end zones, those maps are still very accurate. In 1980, when they did the 394 bypass through Lakewood, not so much. So we're rewriting those. So in that area, there are hundreds of thousands of feet of pipe. There are over 1,800 manholes. There are 8 large pump stations and 4 vacuum pump stations. We have hundreds of small simplex grinder pumps that all transmit the waste to our wastewater treatment plant in Celeron. The wastewater treatment plant in Celeron is permitted for 4.1 million gallons per day. The largest wastewater treatment plant is in Chicago. They treat approximately 1.5 billion gallons a day, so you can see the difference. We have 4 certified operators at the treatment plant. We are directly under the supervision of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. So any mandates that come from the state, comes through DEC, they tell us what we have to remove, the parameters and everything else. Their parameter is we have to remove 85% of the nutrient loading that comes in the front door that leaves through the effluent pipe. We currently remove approximately 98 to 99% of that nutrient loading.
What was the number
85.
85, okay.
So we remove on the average of 98 to 99%. They also, now we have to remove ammonia, we remove phosphorus, and what we were speaking of earlier, when we chlorinate to disinfect, we have to dechlorinate. And that is something that they just also installed that we have to do as well. And in that, we do that operation, and we have currently 18 employees at the South and Center Sewer District. We have 3 in administrative office. We have 2 in our engineering department. We have 3 that work full-time just in the laboratory and operations. And then we have 10 gentlemen that work in the field and in the wastewater treatment plant. They work back and forth. Most generally, we'll have 8 mechanics in the field on any given day. Yes, sir.
Well, personnel, how's the staffing been, and are you fully staffed? Have you been able to find the engineers that you need?
So we are currently fully staffed. And to be honest with you, right now, we have a fantastic staff. They're, actually, the busier we keep them, the happier they are. They're fantastic mechanics. You know, one of the mottos is you leave it better than you found it. And they do. They do an exceptional job. We do a lot of in-house rebuilding of pumps. They do a lot of that themselves. We do a lot of the mechanical, the wiring. We do that in-house. So we've really been able to keep our budget in check. For once, we do a lot of in-house repairs. In the due diligence of maintaining, doing a very specific maintenance program, it reduces our emergency contractors. And when you hire emergency contractors, it can become very expensive. We've been very fortunate in the years past. We've been on top of that and have not had any emergency repairs come through the door. So, yeah, we've had a good lid on it. But the mechanics we have right now, and actually, the last mechanic position we posted, we had 1 applicant. And if there would have been 100, I probably still would have hired him. So we were very fortunate, so, yeah. Okay,
Okay.
all right, we'll move on. In our 8120 account, 8120 is a collection system. That is the budget that we basically utilize all the collection system. The largest increases we've seen this year are in contractual raises and an increase in depreciation to the line extension. The line extension is a sewer extension. That was about a $12.5 million construction project, so we're seeing a larger depreciation that's within our budget. Costs and operating supplies. Again, operating supplies are just going up about a 5% increase overall. Any questions on 8120? $8130 as well, increases in personal services due to contractual, equipment, increase, depreciation, sewer extension, maintenance costs, and we do have some legal fees. We have a slight legal battle going on with a gentleman, just to bring you up to speed. We saw that he was building a beautiful beautiful bathhouse. And we explained to him that's not a sewer easement. You're actually not allowed to do that. The easement goes right through your backyard. Stop construction. We did get the code enforcement officer involved. He also gave a letter to stop construction. Apparently he didn't see it, didn't hear it. And now currently today, he has a fantastic bathhouse on his property that we are asking him to remove. We are pending litigation, and we do have an attorney hired to move this forward. So this might be a little bit of a battle going forward, so, but we are asking him to remove the building, and it might take a bit to get him to do it, but he will do it. So,
One way or another.
I'm sorry?
Said one way or another.
It's one way or the other, for sure.
Yeah, either that way or that.
But not over the pipe.
Don't put it over the pipe. Again, we have a contingency account, $250,000. That is for an emergency-based situation. We cannot fail. That money is there to make sure that we can hire whatever vendors we need to make sure that we are operable. And debt services as well.
So you may wonder how we can project a budget with an operating loss of $2.6 million next year. That's because our fund balance at the end of last year was $5.9 million.
Sounds doable.
So
What are you doing for?
the way that we maintain our rates, low rates for our customers, our users, is by appropriating fund balance.
How long can we afford to do that? 2 years?
We've been doing that, Tom, when was the last time we raised rates?
We had a sewer rate increase in 2001. In 2014, we had a rate restructuring because we had almost 6 different rates within the sewer district. And a center district construction bond was paid off at that time. And so at that point, we restructured all rates in 2014 to $88.50.
Equalized all the rates. So we lowered some rates, we raised some rates, and on balance, we got about the same amount of revenue.
Yep.
It's just that we equalized the rates. So essentially, for 23 years, we haven't changed the rates.
We've had approximately a 1% population increase, but that increase is Southern Tier Brewery, Celeron Hotel. We've had some pretty large, substantial customers move into the district. We had a assisted living home up on Southwestern Drive that I believe they have 116 units. So although the growth is very slow, that 1%, they're good customers. You know, the Celeron Hotel, so we're able to, our overall customer base is increasing.
Okay. Oh, I must have misheard. I heard we had a fund balance of 5 point something million,
Yes, five
and
point
we're
nine.
eating into it at the rate of 2 point something million?
Well, you have to bear in mind, Fred, that we, and I must sit on that sewer board, we budget very conservatively.
Mhm.
So even though we are budgeting for a $2.6 million loss, last year, our loss was only $1 million. That's because we have a director and staff that are very careful in how much money they spend, when they spend it, how they spend it. So we give them a budget to operate with the expectation that they're not gonna spend it all. And year after year, they don't disappoint us.
I'm hearing different fund balances on these water and sewer districts. Is
Yes.
there a, like we have on ours, is there a recommendation to what that should be, or is there
There
a
is.
cap, or?
There is no recommendation, there's nothing in our policy, county policies, as to what that number should be. So it's just something that, to be honest with you, that I pay a lot of attention to make sure that each of the district is on sound financial footing.
Right.
Is $5.9 million more than what this district needs on an ongoing basis? Yes. Should it be 4.9, 3.9, 2.9? That's subject to discussion and conjecture, but 5.9 is more than this district needs to stay on solid operating basis.
But there's no state percentage or
Nope.
anything?
No.
Nope.
Even for the general fund balance, the comptroller doesn't, they won't tell us how much we should or shouldn't have,
They only do that for school districts.
yeah.
Oh, they don't do it for the county?
But I also think for the water and sewer districts would, something like that would be something that the prerogative of their boards, I think, would have, a say in what their policy would be for something like that. So there is a distinction between the authority of the legislature and the district boards, if I've heard.
I'm okay with there not being any recommendation, it's just,
Mhm.
it's interesting to
Different
hear one's got 5.9 and one's got, and I realize the size, but one's got 290, thousand or whatever. They're just wherever they are,
Mhm.
and I'm good with that.
Going back to when we did the first construction of the expansion, the creation and expansion of the South and Center Chautauqua Lake Sewer Districts back in the early 80s, I was the chairman of that sewer board back then, and we had a county finance director and a county investment advisor that were absolutely fabulous. They both worked on Wall Street. And we set those districts up for success, and that was 45 years ago. And they're still reaping the benefits of that success.
Great. Alrighty then. We did debt service, yes.
All good?
Any more questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none?
Can the clerk please
Thanks,
call
Tom.
them?
Thank you.
Call them recess.
We'll take a 1-hour break now.
Oh, I didn't have an answer on the insurance.
Pardon?
Kitty has an answer on the
She has an
You
answer.
have an insurance answer?
I do, well, wait for him here.
Here it is.
For, regarding the insurance increase for the industrial water and sewer districts that, so when I was developing the budget this year, I did obtain a more detailed schedule of values for property. And, what I found is that the water tower had previously been rolled up under DPF. So that property was, factoring into the allocation of property insurance, so, we corrected that for 2025, so it accurately reflects the insurance on the water tower for the district.
Matt and I talked when he was leaving, that that's what we anticipated for the water district, but we don't have an answer for the sewer district.
I think it was in my model, it just equally splits the property value, but if it should all be on the water district, then we can change that.
For the water tower, it's strictly for the water district.
So we can propose an amendment to move that off to the water district. If needed.
Yeah, okay. I think for accuracy, it would make sense.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Next up,
Yeah.
Northern Chautauqua County Water District. Oh, were you kidding about the break? All right. Hurry. Please, for the folks at home, state your names.
My name is Kathy Tampio. I am financial analyst for the legislature and act as administrative assistant for the North Chautauqua County Water District.
Thank you.
I'm Dan Pecos. I'm the Town of Pomfret Supervisor and the Chairman of the Board of the North Chautauqua County Water District. During my day job, I'm also Superintendent of Schools at Lakeshore Schools in Angola. A little bit of my background, I've got an accounting degree, I'm a CPA, and have an MBA in finance from St. Bonaventure. So I'm a little out of my realm here.
Thanks.
Are we waiting for folks to come back before
Nope.
we get started? Okay.
You all set? Okay, as you know, the North Chautauqua County Water District is a regional water supplier for the communities in North Chautauqua County, from the town of Sheridan all the way to the town of Portland, which includes the village of Brockton. So, and we base our revenue for our budget based upon just the water rate to the customers within this regional district. However, we have one contract with an entity called CBI Waterworks, which is made up of all those towns and the one village, and that's our sole customer at this point. So our water rate is determined by a contract we have with the city of Dunkirk to supply the water, and that is reviewed and approved every year. And based on that water rate that the district pays to the city is how we determine what the rate is to our customers. We add an amount for potential debt service cost coming up and for O&M costs to the district. This year, the big change in our budget is you'll see it in the FTE page, is the addition of a newly created position of the administrative director. And that's pretty much due to the leadership and efforts of our chairman Shagnon to get this going. The position's been approved, and it's in the budget, but it will also serve as administrative director, not only for our district, but also for the PPD sewer district and the North Chautauqua, well, the North County Industrial Water District and Sewer District. So the allocation of that salary for the .1 and .8s for that position will be across all those districts. And you'll see it, and you probably already have seen it in all the other district budgets for '25.
Can I jump in?
Add to that? Yes.
I have questioned the full-time equivalent FTE being allocated to the North County Water District of .45, because that person is going to be shared between the two water and two sewer districts. I question the 45% allocation to the North County Water District. I think something in the neighborhood of 25 to 30% would be a little more equitable. I don't see this person with no employees in the North County Water District itself, but just heard about the number of employees in the sewer district. I think this person is not going to be spending 45% of their time on the North County Water District. The way the North County Water District is set up, if you're not familiar, the county buys the water from Dunkirk and resells it to CBI Waterworks and the North County Industrial Water District. CBI Waterworks employs the employees that check the pumps, do the water tests, do the chlorination, do the meter readings, do the billings. All that work is done outside of the North County Water District. So this executive director won't be doing that. They'll be doing basically the bookwork and getting ready for the meetings that Kathy has been doing. And Kathy has been averaging about 10 hours a week on average for North County Water District. So I feel that 45% of that executive director's salary and benefits being allocated to the North County Water District is heavy.
Just a question, and
Mhm.
I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I'm not close enough to it to know. So we have that one customer.
Mhm.
If that changes in the future, does that change what the director would be doing? Does that make sense, that question? We have one customer now. I mean, if it branched out, is that gonna,
I don't see it doing that.
it's
I
still
mean,
gonna be the same?
Yeah, I mean, you would issue, okay, because Brockton Portland is looking at leaving CBI Waterworks, the county would bill Brockton Portland and bill CBI. So you'd be billing two customers.
Right, I just,
Yeah, I mean, that isn't the brunt of the work. The brunt of the work is tracking the grants, with the capital project that's going on, getting ready for the board meetings, getting the minutes
not
together.
the
and-
day-to-day stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'm the one that proposed this position and worked with finance at how to allocate the cost of this individual across four very different districts. And without the benefit of having the person in the position and seeing how much of their time is spent with the various districts, we came up with a proposed allocation. And I understand what Dan is saying. He has a legitimate concern here. We don't know how much time the individual is gonna spend with each of the districts, but that's something that will be tracked for the first year to see how that goes. And even if we find halfway through the year that the time is, or a quarter of the way through the year, the time is way out of balance, we could make the adjustment then. But we had to start somewhere. And I think that Dan, especially with his knowledge and experience, and I'll even go one step further, with the amount of work that he does personally as board chairman for this district, that there may be need for an adjustment as we go forward, but I would have nothing to base that on today. So I'm gonna suggest that we keep track of this as the year develops, and if we get to a position where after the first quarter, after the second quarter, we need to make a budget adjustment, we would make propose a budget adjustment.
And it should be something, I won't use the word easy, but I'll use the word easy. It should be easy to,
Track their time, yes.
once the position's in and it gets going. I would maybe give it 2 quarters.
That would be my preference as well.
Yeah,
It may be something that shifts, because we do have a proposed project on the table that I believe is included in the county budget. One of the things we've requested, we've applied for WIA, Water Infrastructure Improvement Act funding, to add master meters between each of the municipalities involved, between Dunkirk, Sheridan, Pomfret, Portland, and Brockton. We are missing those right now. So that's why the county has to bill CBI for all of the water. We have no way of measuring between each municipal gate how much is going to each municipality. I think that was an oversight when the district was formed and done to save money, but I think that was a major boo-boo, that they should have paid the extra to get that in there. So we're trying to do that through a project now. If we get that funding approved and start that project, there will be more work, I think, for this person tracking that project. So it'll be, shifting sand, but if that doesn't get approved, I don't see that level of work.
yeah, right. And I guess just for now, we have heard, you've been heard,
Mhm.
and that isn't a good way to put it, but
Yeah.
we hear you.
Mhm.
And as Pierre says, and knowing Pierre, it will be acted on if necessary to make the adjustments for the allocation of where that.
And I feel comfortable with that because I trust him.
Yeah.
I've worked enough with him to know. The one question I didn't get answered was, I know we were previously appropriating or recognizing $132,000 a year in revenue, and that represented the difference of the value of the assets that were signed over from the Village of Brockton and the amount of the bond that was issued for that, because there was grant funding involved. And the district was recognizing $132,000 a year of that deferred revenue. The state controller, when they came in, wrote the district in the report and said, no, you should recognize that all up front. So that $132,000 came out, but that money is sitting in the fund balance right now. So if you feel comfortable letting this float with the current pricing, I guess is what I'm thinking, and knowing that there's a fund balance to cover it. I never got an answer on what the fund balance figure is currently, so I'm not really sure if that's available or not, but that was a question I had.
Fund balance is currently negative.
Okay.
Substantially, but that's a function of where you are in the process of developing this district. So I don't know that it's an accurate reflection of what your available fund balance is, Dan.
Okay.
So I think where it sits right now is the right place to leave it for a while, and we have to recognize that this district is still in major development mode. We're talking about adding a significant community to the water district. We're talking about adding significant town water districts to the district. So this district is still going through major changes. We still have grants, applications out. We still have grant funding to be received. So until we really get this project better buttoned up, I don't think we would make any decisions one way or the other about that.
And I'm good with that. I was going to speak to the expansion. The town of Pomfret has got 2 water district expansion projects in the work right now for our North End Water District to all new customers that do not have municipal water right now. The Village of Fredonia does not have the water to supply us. We'll be adding that to the North Chautauqua County Water District. The North Chautauqua will be supplying our North End Water District, including our Phase 1, because all of the district will be tied together. But additionally, you'll be picking up the rest of our water districts. The North County Water District will be picking up our Berry Road, our Chestnut Road, our Route 60, our Route 20, everything but the Lilydale District that's supplied by the Village of Casadega. So we'll be 100% in here. I'm working with the Village of Fredonia right now because they were looking at buying water directly from the town of Dunkirk. They were looking at $17 million construction cost to put an interconnect line to the Willowbrook Avenue water tank. I talked to the mayor and said, you're gonna easily have $3 million in soft costs for design, architect fees, borrowing, whatever. So you're talking $20 million, you're gonna amortize over 20 or 30 years. We've got 9 connections around the Village of Fredonia right now where they're supplying water to us. The water could easily flow the opposite way through those pipes from the town to the village without spending $20 million. So that's the study that the North County Water District is, and thank you for supporting the funding on that, but that's the study that we're updating to show them that, folks, you can get municipal water from Dunkirk. Yes, you'll pay the North County rate, which will be a little higher than if you bought directly from Dunkirk, but you're not gonna have the debt service on all that infrastructure, and it will be done a lot faster. So I anticipate you'll at least get the town of Pomfret, because we've already decided you're getting the North County Water District, will be getting us. But my guess is you're gonna be getting the Village of Fredonia too in here.
Question, just for the good of the group here, plus I wanna know, those new districts, how far out are those?
They're in design right now. We're, basically, our last holdup is we're waiting for an answer from Fredonia. We're adding a water tank probably on Fredonia Stockton Road. If it's just for the town of Pomfret, we had planned for $500,000 gallon tank, 500,000 gallon tank. If we're going to include the village, it'll be upsized to 1 million or 2 million gallons. And that's really the holdup right now. But what we've said, or what I've told the architects is bid the base for a 500,000 gallon tank and bid an ad alternate for the upsized tank. And this way we can get it out to bid and give them still time to decide.
2026?
I'm hoping for 2025. Start construction may be complete in 2026.
Good, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Really exciting for me.
As a Pomfret resident, right? So.
No, I mean, I have water, but
Right. We have a lot of people on North Road, Lamberton Road, Harmon Hill Road.
I've been to meetings where there's
That
people
don't.
in tears because they don't have water, and I would love to see those. It'll be so exciting. We should film each one of them turning their water on, because it's gonna be a good day for them.
It will be.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get a new water line too. He's one of my neighbors.
So collateral question, how, if it's a new water line, does that change the zoning where that goes in?
No.
So if you're moving from a piece of a town that's currently supplied by wells
Mhm.
to supplied by a mainline water, it doesn't change the zoning?
No.
Yeah, I think it would in Westfield,
Yeah, it doesn't.
doesn't in
Pomfret.
Pomfret, okay.
It might change, your minimum lot
So
sizes.
that's what I mean,
Yeah. But it doesn't necessarily change the zone that they're in.
right.
It's just if you want to subdivide a lot, because it's got municipal water, you can, probably have a smaller lot.
Right.
Yeah,
No,
that would be the only thing, but it wouldn't change the zone
No,
itself.
so by zoning, I meant actually
Yeah.
lot size, because
Lot
the next
sizes.
thing that follows is sewer, and you're down to zero
Mhm.
lot lines
Yes.
and sprawl,
Mhm.
which is not the smart growth vision that, Albany has.
Yeah, our water district was created over 10 years ago, and it's around the village. So it's in what we call the transition zone in our comprehensive plan.
Mhm.
So we said if we're going to extend water service, it would be to those areas. And we have lateral restrictions and things through rural development that they've, had us put in there, so, yeah, to sort of not, or control the sprawl.
Yeah, I just wanted to make another point before we move on and talk about the capital project completion. The expense of the water purchase, as well as the sale of water provided to the communities, is based this year on 245 million gallons of water received and sold. And this year, this budget is based on 240 million gallons. I feel comfortable with increasing it to 245 million, because as of comparing third quarter 2024 to third quarter 2023, we are already up 10 million gallons. So I think it's a good general estimate for this year. And the capital project completion, this should be done the end of this year. We just had one contract to complete, which is the new water tank in Sheridan. And then bonding will probably occur next year and I think from Finance Director Crowe that we wouldn't see debt payments commence till 2026 budget. So that'll be, that debt service will be incorporated in that budget. Our bonding this year, or next year, is based on the total project cost less. We had $5.1 million in grants. 100,000 came from DASNY, the SAM grant, which has already been received. There was two $1 million grants from ESD, and those are dispersed to the county capital project after the project is completed. And we also got a $3 million grant from EFC through the WIA funding, which is currently being utilized as the project is expensed and forms sent in. So we're looking forward to that. There's also the possibility of additional funds that are in negotiation between the Department of Corrections and the Village of Brockton, that they were, by agreement, to provide to the Brockton Capital Project. The district has an IMA with Brockton that if and when they receive those funds from the Department of Corrections, it'll be transferred to the district, to the capital project. So there's additional hope for more funding to offset any bonding amount. And then the other, in your details, the other things that were added this year or changed the amounts was now that we have new infrastructure owned by the district, we have to pay the electric bills, the gas bills. We're gonna have to have cellular service for our SCADA monitoring systems. And, what was the other one? There was chemicals, like the chlorine used at the chlorination stations. Anything else, Mr. Pecos?
No, I was just going to mention, we saw a large increase from the city of Dunkirk for the cost of water this year. You may or may not be aware, we're a few years behind in their books, and the rate is driven on a 3-year average of their cost. So they caught the rate up this year. Our hope, though, is as we move forward with the increased customers, through economies of scale, we're gonna see the rate per thousand come down, because they staff the plant 24/7, 365 now. So there should be no increase in the regular staffing. There'll be an increase in variable costs for filters and chemicals, obviously, and probably a little bit of overtime for maintenance, for doing those changes more often. But the day-to-day staffing shouldn't change. They'll just be processing more water through the plant. And I believe they're processing about a third of their total capacity, rated capacity right now. So they've got plenty of capacity to add us.
Yeah, no, one other addition of customers to our district will be our Phase 2 capital project installed a water main up to the new tank that's in Sheridan. And the Sheridan town government has gone through the process to add another town district. And those customers along that water main will be able to connect to our water main. So we'll have an addition of, I don't know, 15, 20 customers. So there's some growth right now, and we're hoping for the additional Pomfret
Yes.
customers and possibly Fredonia.
And there's 2 industrial customers, too, that we shouldn't leave out. Part of the rate increase this year was driven by the elimination of one of the lines at the Wells ice cream plant. They've since restarted that line and put a major investment in it, so they'll be ramping their production, if they haven't already, back up there on that line. So that will factor in, because they get their water through Dunkirk. That will factor into our total price. But also the, I want to call it Athenex, but Immunity Bio, or whatever the name is now, they did get approval on their infusion cancer drug. I understand they're about a year away from starting production, that they're starting to install their machinery and working on the plant. They're a ways away from that, but when they ramp up, that will be a big increase in water usage there also. So we've got some major customers coming online for the overall water plant of Dunkirk, but that will factor into our pricing, along with things like the White Inn in Fredonia opening back up. And I got a sneak peek the other day. It's awesome.
Not to be, we hope that this will keep or reduce, or, I mean, that should actually happen.
It should. Just, I mean, cost accounting, you're
Okay,
you're
but-
increasing your output without increasing your fixed costs. Yeah,
It should actually, it should be more than just hope, yes?
yes,
I'm sort of
Yeah.
having fun with it, but
yeah, no, I mean, Wells is
we've
there.
hoped for
and-
some things before,
Yeah, yeah, no, well, we've been hoping for
yeah,
the cancer drug plant for a number of years, you know.
okay.
Is there any other questions for us on the budget itself? I mean, we might have to have a budget amendment if Dunker comes back with another rate increase based on their most recent year cost or whatever, but we'll handle that as we go. Right now, it's based on our current costs.
But just to take on his question, Dunkirk is contractually obligated to price you at base, or base cost plus marginal cost? They can't just keep the profits from from the fixed cost leverage?
We can't? Is that
No,
what you said?
Dunker
I'm sorry,
can't.
Dunker can't? There's a formula built into the contract that Dunkirk has with the North County Water District, a very long formula that a professor at Fredonia State developed. But
Alright, so-
basically, it's based on their costs, their audited costs.
All right, so you are getting, through that formula, the benefit of their fixed cost leverage.
Yes.
That's all.
You have to have training on the formula, or does he come back and utilize it?
Yeah, we actually have it reduced to a spreadsheet now that they can put the costs into and it'll calculate the formula. I did request that we simplify the formula, basically identify the costs that go into it and divide by the number of millions of gallons produced for the previous year. And that's in essence what the formula does, only it does a 3-year average. So it's meant to sort of smooth out those dips and spikes. And this year we took a hit because a lot of it was the wells production went down, and that was a big reduction in water used. So we should see that bounce back. Anything else?
Anybody else?
Dan, thank you for all you do for
Thank you.
this water district.
We need water. I'll make sure that we're on solid ground, so we've got it, because we're gonna need it.
Thanks for the time you
Okay.
took off today to come see us.
It was my pleasure.
All right, we're done.
Beautiful drive.
Right.
Thanks, folks.
Don't leave, I got 3 hours worth of questions. All right, get your phone out. I guess you're done. All right. That's the end of our day, unless anybody's got anything. We didn't amend anything.
No, we didn't save any money today.
No, but we noted a couple of amendments that will be needed for the insurance.
Right. Okay.
It won't change the overall net cost, but,
Right.
it'll just be a,
Okay.
you
But
know,
we'll have
increase
that.
one account, yeah.
We'll have that in time, and then we were also wondering about fuel
Fuel.
costs. We'll get that before Friday.
Yep.
Not that could affect money though, correct?
Yeah. Everything helps, so. Okay, with that being said,
I'll make a motion to adjourn the administrative services meeting.
I second that motion.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried, adjourned. Thank you.
This isn't ag and services, this is public facilities.